Dennis Zine. We're waiting the arrival of Council Member Chair Mr. Alarcon and Ms. Hahn, but in the process we will begin with items number one, and then we'll go to 2, then we'll go to 3, then we'll go to 4. How does that sound, Joe?
Sounds great, sir.
All right.
Any way you want
Backwards.
it. Okay.
Let's move forward.
Item number 1, a communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Mr. Kalshaw to the Human Relations Commission for the term ending June 30th, 2012. Please.
I never knew that was your name.
Yes, I wouldn't kid you. How are you this morning?
Good to see you. I've known you for many years. I never knew your name, but your smiling face
Thank you.
at many of the events that we've attended together. So you are on the Human Relations Commission. It's an appropriate commission for you.
Thank you.
A man of peace and tranquility.
I feel at home
With us or with the commission?
with both.
With both. Wonderful. Is this your second reappointment?
It is.
Okay, how's it worked out for you?
It's worked out very well. And the commission, as you know, is going through a lot of changes, exciting changes in a lot of ways right now. So I'm very excited to be appointed for another 4 years.
So you've obviously done well with that endeavor. What about challenges and changes that you would recommend, something that we could do from our aspect?
I
staff,
always
et
think
cetera.
the field of human relations could be a little bit more expanded. I'm one of the commissioners who feels that we could definitely do a lot more in the city if given the purview to do that. But we're already doing a lot of good things, and just continuing with what we're doing is going to help a lot.
I know that the rabbi's involved in many of the community activities, and I've seen you at many, many, many community activities.
But like I said,
I thought you were
I'm
just-
passionately involved. I'm not just
Yeah.
kind of casually there.
But on this, my lack of knowledge, I didn't know you were a commissioner with that very important commission. What about the problems with the schools, the issue with the different ethnicities, the different races at the schools? You got involved in that at all?
I did. I went out to many of the schools that when the problems happened with our commission staff and stuff, and I think the problems in the schools are not insurmountable, but they need a lot more attention too. They need a more, as we always say, proactive approach. We do a lot when the fire starts to put out the fire and try and calm things down, but I think there are some fundamental changes that we can make that can help prevent a lot of the fires more than what we're doing. And I think our staff has worked to employ some of those already, but I think, within the limitations, our staff is heavily overworked, as most of the council members know.
Is there sufficient staff to handle?
In my opinion, no, but,
Okay. Because I've heard that from other commissioners, quality and productivity, they basically have no staff, and they try to get things done. You think with the economic crisis, productivity and quality would be paramount, so we're trying to do something with staffing so they can have some personnel to help with their
Well,
agendas.
The more we get, the more staff support we can get, the more we can do. And that's where I go. Many of our staff members on salary work up to 70 hours a week, as it is.
Do you have full-time staff there, though, at the commission, other
yeah.
than the rabbi?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And I think we just lost 3 staff members in the last budget cuts.
So for clerical, that aspect, that they're...
There is a consolidation in the clerical, and, the commission totally understands the position the city's in with the budget and stuff, and we want to do, we'll tighten our belts wherever we can to make it work, but, again, the amount that we can do, of course, is relative to the amount of capacity that we have.
Okay. So there's 11 commissioners. Do you ever have a problem getting a quorum?
No. Well, rarely, maybe once a year. With many of the commissioners are very active community members also, like myself, and they travel quite a bit. And whenever they're in town, they make it, but sometimes they're out of town, but not too often. I believe there is a change in the structure of the commission being suggested, and I think they suggested 9 members in some of the documents I've seen. But I'm not sure if that's finalized, if we're going to do that or not. I think we may stay at 11.
It represents different ethnicities, different religions, different across
And that's
the board.
one of the real beauties of the commission is we do have a very diverse representation from the city. You know, I tend to fall in, you know, obviously I represent my cultural communities and stuff, but also the religious communities have a lot to do with the city of Los Angeles. They're the backbone of our city. And because of my extracurricular activities, we're often able to draw that capacity in when we need to, or at least have its opinion stated and its positions expressed.
And then your project manager, you still doing that?
I'm sorry, for which?
Your profession?
Actually, I build dedicated home theaters in the houses in Bel Air and Beverly Hills, big home theater systems.
Nice.
Is what I do, yeah. It allows me, because I run my own business, it allows me to adjust my schedule for activities like this.
Wonderful. So you could be there for all those activities. Yeah, it's a web designer, project manager, web designer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was several years ago when I was consulting for some companies, some overseas companies and stuff. So.
Very good. And our Sikh community, I think we have one in the West San Fernando Valley.
You have, in the Valley, you've got one in Burbank, one in North Hollywood, rather, one in Northridge, and one in Canoga Park.
Canoga Park on Jordan.
Yes.
Okay, I've been there a couple of times.
Great, great.
I know there's many.
I think that's an old Lutheran church they're in,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. Okay.
It was.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Okay. We will then send this forward. When's it go to council? Mr. Darrow?
It will go next Wednesday,
Next
September 17th.
17th.
Okay. Does that fit your schedule?
Yes, Erica and I just discussed that.
Okay. All right. So I'm sure Mr. Alarcon and Ms. Hahn will join me in the recommendation. They wouldn't go against me on something like this. I know the Ethics Commission's there. Are you here for the commissioners? No? Oh, okay. They got here early for something else. All right, so we'll recommend approval on that, and it's good seeing you again.
Thank you. Always
Now
good to see you.
Now I know you're a commissioner. I'll refer to you as Mr. Commissioner.
My pleasure. Anything I can do for you, council member.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks much. And number 2, please. It's all right.
Okay. Item number 2 is a communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Reverend Louis Logan to the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners.
Well,
The Reverend is a few minutes late.
oh, he is. Oh, I thought you said, oh, you said he's going to be a few minutes late. Okay, they're both coming. Okay. So why don't we go to, we only got 3 and 4. Okay, let's do number 3. We'll hold 2, come to 3. Well, I think we're going to continue number 3. At least that's my recommendation. There's a lot of issues on number 3. So why don't we read number 3, and then we can begin with that.
Okay.
See, it's perfect timing. So we go to number 3. Rich, good morning. We're now joined by the chair, Councilmember Richard Alarcon. We've approved number 1, reappointment of the commissioner. Number 2 is late, and we're now opening number 3. And then all we have number 4 left.
Item number 3 is the City Ethics Commission reports in response to motion Smith-Garcetti relative to neighborhood councils filing statements of economic interest.
Although just a point of clarification, Gwen Poindexter, we actually didn't approve item 1, so if we want to take that item up so that Councilwoman Alarcon could also orally make that recommendation as well.
That was the reappointment of the commissioner.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
thank you.
So back to item 1, we approve it.
Uh,
I join in.
Yes, you approved. Number 2, we're waiting for the other candidate to get here. Item number 3 is the City Ethics Commission reports in response to the motion Smith-Garcetti relative to the neighborhood councils filing statements of economic interest.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Did you want to make a report?
Yes. Heather Hold, the Director of Policy and Legislation for the Ethics Commission. The Commission met last Friday and discussed the committee's request regarding an annual form for disclosure by Neighborhood Council board members. In the course of that meeting, the commission reaffirmed its support for Form 52, which is a filing that is tied to neighborhood council files and is only required when a neighborhood council file is created. However, in response to the committee's request, the commission also did approve a new form, Form 53, which is essentially a modified version of Form 52 and can be filed on an annual basis by all neighborhood council board members, if the city council would prefer universal disclosure rather than disclosure tied to a neighborhood council file.
Okay, thank you. The Form 53 would not be tied to the state requirements?
That's correct. Although our recommendation,
52, right?
yes, although our recommendation is that it be filed at the same time that Form 700 is filed, which is April 1st of each year.
Okay. The significant difference is that under Form 52, you would have to file, you and the neighborhood council that files a motion plus the neighborhood council that seconds the motion would have to fill out the form. And every subsequent neighborhood council member of those neighborhood councils would have to fill out the form.
Not exactly. Both the neighborhood council that moves the file and the neighborhood council that seconds it, if any board member that participated in voting on that neighborhood council file, either a yes or a no, would have to file it. That's the only filing requirement for those boards until they create another neighborhood council file.
Okay. And the theoretical reason for tying it to the neighborhood council file, I don't remember.
Well, it originally arose because the council motions related to this tied it to the creation of a neighborhood council file, and actually the Ethics Commission has affirmed that as an appropriate level of disclosure among neighborhood council board members because of their advisory status.
But it would have a chilling effect for a neighborhood council to, not only would a neighborhood council have to get another neighborhood council to agree with them on the policy, they would then have to get them to consider the policy in light of the fact that they would now have to fill out an ethics form. So it would have a chilling effect on other neighborhood councils who might be interested in seconding a motion.
That could be a possibility, and actually the Commission on Friday acknowledged that this is a difficult policy issue, and so it is presenting two alternative forms to hopefully accommodate the council's best determination on this issue.
Yeah, I think that Mr. Zine, my take on this is that the two issues should be separate. There shouldn't be, there's a consideration for ethics and there's a consideration for policy. The policy consideration is to allow neighborhood councils to introduce policy into the council file system, and I believe this would, to tie the ethics form to that, would be a hindrance, an unnecessary hindrance that might squelch their activities, not because of the primary agreement between two neighborhood councils to submit a motion, but because of the ethics form that would have to be filled out by the seconder of the motion. And I think that's an unnecessary burden. The other form, on the other hand, the Form 53, would be applied to all neighborhood council members. They would all have to fill it out once a year. It's not as onerous as the 700 form. It is controlled locally, so we can amend it as we go along. And this is a 2-year pilot project, so it's not as if we have to set these items in stone. I lean strongly to the Form 53 and would move to that several things actually is on form that we approve Form 53, that we designate Dunn as the repository until the pilot project, then we can reconsider it. In terms of enforcing it, where the language, the newly revised Form 53, where's the language that says it shall be required of all neighborhood council members?
You can do recommendation 3
Okay.
on 3E.
Recommendation 3.
And Councilman, if I may, Bang Wan Kim, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, I believe the original recommendation from the Ethics Commission was that they be the repository.
I understand that. I'm also recommending...
Not done?
Well, but then Dunn would have to be a repository as well if you're going to be able to enforce it. In other words, if the neighborhood council members don't fill it out, what are you going to wait till ethics tells you they didn't fill out the form and then you...
How are you going to coordinate the two?
Let me
Doesn't
offer
make
some
sense.
suggestions, because the city attorney's office has some serious reservations and concerns about having Dunn be the repository when we believe that it's the Ethics Commission's charter given responsibilities to handle ethics-related and conflict of interest matters. However, there is a possibility that you could initially have the form sent to Dunn for their purpose of identifying and determining whether all the board members have actually filled it out, and then the Dunn can then turn it over to the Ethics Commission for them to be essentially the custodian of records. That might accommodate your concerns about enforceability.
That would be fine, except that the ethics commission is asking for a staff member. And I don't see the need for an additional staff member. I don't want them to say they're not able to perform their tasks.
I understand, but I think legally we have some strong concerns about the legality of providing a role for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment that, quite frankly, is not in their charter described duties, and it's contrasted with the Ethics Commission duties, which are clearly prescribed in Charter Section 702 and 704 and
I'm just curious, does
706.
the ethics commission have responsibilities relative to staff in a department?
Well, the budget and staff initiative, I'll let the Ethics Commission respond to that.
No, I'm saying, does the ethics commission have responsibility regarding ethics in Department of General Services?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Councilmember Leanne Pelham with the Ethics Commission. I would just add that the reason our report cited the need for additional resources is because we note that the council is very interested in knowing when there is a monetary impact for any of the policies it creates. So in our view, whether that position is something that the Ethics Commission would have if the files came to us, there certainly would be a staffing impact, even for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. So our recommendation is that the council consider that there will be a monetary cost for the disclosure requirement, no matter where it's housed.
Okay, then I recommend, as suggested by the city attorney, as part of the motion, that Dunn be the initial recipient of the forms to determine whether the neighborhood council members have met their standard, and then send it over to ethics to be the repository. I also recommend that, as part of the motion, that the Ethics Commission consideration of staffing be reviewed after the council acts on whether to approve Form 53 or not, that there be a review by Budget and Finance as to whether or not staffing increases at ethics are appropriate.
I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into this, but I received some, good morning, Ms. Hahn. I received some emails from neighborhood council folks from my district, including the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils. They're unaware of what process is taking place, and they've asked this matter be continued for a month so they can get on board. Not that they're opposing it, but apparently they haven't been informed of the process that we're pursuing on the 700, 52, 53, whatever kind of form is going to be developed. So I would make a motion that we hold this matter and not make a recommendation at this time until the neighborhood council members have an opportunity to review and have some input, since they're going to fill it out. And if they want to show some concern, if we push it upon them and for whatever reason they decide to throw in the towel, no one benefits. And I think in fairness, objectivity, it would be beneficial for this committee to give the information to Dunn to disseminate to neighborhood councils and get some input and find out where we go from there. They may say it's fine and dandy, or they may have some serious reservations, but the emails that I've received are all requesting that we hold this matter and let them review it. So I would make a motion that we would hold this matter in place, continue the discussion, but give them an opportunity, and I guess through Dunn disseminate, let them know what we're doing. And I was unaware that they were unaware of what was taking place with this, but there's obviously some concern from neighborhood councils in my district, in addition to the Valley Alliance neighborhood councils, which is an association of neighborhood councils. So I would make that recommendation.
You don't have to introduce a motion, we'll just continue it.
Well, if you'll be receptive to that.
I just noticed that the Ethics Commission letter is dated September 8th, and so the neighborhood councils obviously, unless somebody can tell me that the neighborhood councils had an opportunity to receive this information and consider it.
I think the bigger picture for me is, what is our plan to disseminate this information to neighborhood councils? I think that is always
What information?
what we're talking about.
You mean
To fill out the
Yeah,
form?
yeah. I mean, the reason we're continuing this is you don't feel neighborhood councils have had an opportunity to weigh in on this. I guess my point is always, how are we disseminating information in neighborhood councils, getting their input? This is always at the crux, I think, of everything we do. That, according to the charter, Section 900, where no commission, no board, no committee is supposed to, make a decision until neighborhood councils have had enough time to weigh in on it. And this, as you said, Dennis, is exactly, we're going to be implementing something that they're going to have to fill out, yet we have a sense that they haven't been, notified. Where is, what's early notification? How is that process happening? We could continue this, till the cows come home, but what's the plan to disseminate information in neighborhood councils?
If I may, I'd like to.
Kind of why hasn't it been disseminated?
Right.
Well, the report is dated September 8th, for one thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, we have been working
been
on this.
discussing
But in full disclosure,
Yeah.
they should have access to the report.
Right, I agree.
And so, since it's dated September 8th,
Right.
we certainly can't say that 2 days is fair.
No, I agree with you. I just want to know what the plan is.
If it were dated a month ago, then I would be asking Mr. Kim why they haven't received it.
Well, I'd like to offer Dunn, as well as the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners, would be interested in conducting a public hearing or two, some town halls around the city on this issue. It has generated quite a degree of controversy and interest, so I would be more than glad
Okay.
to do that and bring back the report to either committee or to council.
It sounds like another stall tactic, Mr. Kim. The purpose of this forum was tied to the neighborhood council files.
Mhm.
The neighborhood councils wanted the power to introduce neighborhood council files.
Correct.
But because we haven't, because they, at the last minute, my motion was amended, or our report was amended by Mr. Smith and approved by the council to add an ethics provision into the picture, they can't introduce neighborhood council files. And so any further delay will cause a delay in their ability to participate as we've approved in terms of the filing of the neighborhood council, simply because we tagged on this ethics requirement. So I'm concerned that we spin off into another bureaucratic set of meetings that are unnecessary.
I still think that they need to be notified. And I know we discussed this for the last
I don't
few
have a
weeks.
problem with the notification, that's clear, but if you want to talk about having a whole bunch of hearings all over the city, this issue has been pondered for over a year.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's my-
And there's, the controversy obviously is an issue that we want to answer questions. So I don't know if it needs to be town halls, or if the information, the 52, the 53, is disseminated and get their input and their
I think that's
response.
that was my question. What's the plan?
I guess they don't have one.
And again, we're in, I love town halls, but I can't believe that's the best, most
Isn't there a
modern way to receive input from neighborhood councils.
Well, we would e-blast
Don't
the
we have-
report immediately.
It's like modern technology. Can't we
Right.
get input from neighborhood councils without hosting town halls?
Through the emails.
Well, In this case, all we're talking about doing is, first of all, they have access to the copy of this agenda.
Mhm.
So they'll be getting that on, they'll have the benefit of the discussion that we're having.
If they-
Summarized in a report. And that'll come out in a week or even less. Daryl?
Yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
overall, this is still a problem. This is still a problem with
If I can-
neighborhood
if I can
councils.
finish, and then-
Yeah.
You're talking
Okay.
about a report that would be moved from here just to,
Well, the report from this meeting. So
Oh.
they'll have the benefit of that, of the discussion that we're having right now
okay.
within, what, a week?
Yes, if that's what you're asking for.
Well, I think we should expedite it, given
Okay.
that they are asking.
I have neighborhood councils tell me all the
What-
time they don't know what we're talking about.
So what you're asking for is the CLA's office to do a report summarizing where we are to date with this, and then provide to Dunn to disseminate to the neighborhood councils to comment on.
How did they get notice of our meetings?
You'd have to ask the city clerk that.
They subscribe to the agendas, and then they can receive an email notification of the
Okay, so
agenda
I have to
items.
assume that the neighborhood councils are subscribing to this agenda. If they haven't done that, I mean, it's like, help me
Okay.
help you. I mean, I want to give you the information, but if you don't reach out for it, I can't reach back.
Council members, can I add a suggestion here?
Please.
It seems like we're trying to determine how best to do this. I would suggest that a member of your staff and I get together with Dunn and develop a strategic plan as soon as possible how we're going to disseminate this information out to them and work
okay.
with the Ethics Commission, put together the needed documents, give the information to Dunn, and maybe he can email all those documents to the neighborhood councils. They can email back their comments.
Well, no, we don't, no.
You don't? No?
We don't need to do that. We just, Mr. Kim has already said he's going to email the report out immediately.
Okay.
We don't have to wait for a meeting. We can, as he walks out the door, tells his staff, email the report out. The report is complete.
And then in that email, do you ask for, we would like, the committee is interested in your input? I mean, because I will tell you, it's information overload sometimes.
Yes.
And when they subscribe to the agendas, many times, it's just emails. And no one, I've always felt like Dunn needs to play a more active role on specific things that we absolutely need to have their input. I mean, we're continuing this just to have their input, which is great, which is what we should do. But it's not just about a matter of them subscribing to the agenda. It's not just a matter of emailing a report. That's not working.
How about the report?
I'm a little unclear.
So,
because-
you need to
because it
ask
sounds-
for
It sounds
something
like
that-
you're almost asking Dunn to advocate to the neighborhood councils that they participate in something.
Yes,
And
I am.
I don't think we ought to be putting Dunn in the position
There
of
would be-
determining.
They're
what
the
things
Department of
that
Neighborhood
advocate for.
Empowerment.
They shouldn't be out advocating. for.
They absolutely should. That's how I see this department being. They're an advocate for neighborhood councils. They are reaching out to neighborhood councils and saying, okay, group, this is important, pay attention, the committee needs your input on this.
Well,
I absolutely think that's what your role is.
I could certainly attach a memo from myself saying this is a very important issue. This potentially affects all elected neighborhood council board members.
Good.
And if
Better.
those of you who are involved in coalitions to take up this matter
Good.
and to come back to council when it is on the agenda and be prepared to provide testimony and share your perspectives on this issue.
Good. I like that.
That's fine.
That's
And
what
then,
I like.
in addition to the report, we need to send the form so they know exactly what we're talking about.
Yes,
Because reading the
absolutely.
report versus the different questions on the different
The
forms,
forms are in the report.
Yeah.
that's part of the report?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's included.
I would add that we should send the 700 form, so they know they can get a comparison.
See the whole package
It's in the packet.
and get their input. Say, you know what, I like Form 53, I like Form 52.
I'd also want to point out that nobody's proposing 700 form.
Right. Well, I could include a short history of the evolution of this issue. Started from council file and then added on 700 and then went back between 52 and 53. So a short synopsis of the evolution, because it has been a moving target, which has been somewhat difficult for us to put out notice because the issues have been evolving. But,
And that's also included in the report from the Ethics Commission to this committee, so it may even shorten the process, make your work even easier. But that history is included as well.
And I myself have been making an effort to call the coalitions around the city and alerting them on this issue. So they have responded and are quite concerned about this issue, and I believe that they
what
will
about the
weigh.
coalition that Dennis talked about, who wasn't even aware of it?
They found out yesterday.
They're aware of it. It's the same group that complained when we held another matter and they wanted us to expedite it out before we had the votes in council. So,
Well, this came in at September 8th at 12:59 p.m. And this is from the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils.
same
So they're,
group. Exactly.
well, and there's another one I received from another neighborhood council.
They complain if you move fast, they complain if you move slow. I mean,
Well, we
just have
want to
what
do
we think
something.
is the best thing to do.
There's obviously going to be controversy about.
In this case,
Sorry.
I have no problem with providing notice.
So let's continue. Can we continue to a date certain, so we won't, as you say, let this linger around for a long period of time?
But there's a reason we're doing this. And the reason we're,
Opposed to normally?
yeah, really. The reason we're doing it is to solicit input from the very neighborhood councils who are going to be impacted by this. So, I go back to my original question, how do we expect to get this input?
Right. And the offer for the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners to conduct the town hall wasn't to add or slow down this issue at all. It was to provide an opportunity for neighborhood councils to come and ask questions on
the neighborhood councils wanted the neighborhood council file power.
Right.
And this committee voted to give them that power
Right.
without any strings
Right.
relative to the ethics form. The
Right.
council, by a majority, and 2 members on this committee voted to support adding those strings, the ethics provisions.
Right.
What I fear is that the neighborhood councils are going to come back with an argument that they don't want to do any form at all. And they're not going to tie it to the neighborhood council file. So we're going to end up with a lot of debate, because what I'm hearing is not, we don't want the neighborhood council files, we
Don't want the form.
we don't want the form. What I'm hearing is, we don't want the form.
Right.
And it's completely out of context with the neighborhood council files.
Right.
What I'm fearing that the neighborhood councils don't understand related to this committee. This committee is supporting their effort to have an unhindered access to the neighborhood council file
Right.
system. But we are trying to work with the majority of council that presented to us this additional burden of the ethics rules. And we're struggling with that because we know they don't want it. So we're going to send this notice out, but know that there's going to be a whole flock of people coming in screaming at us about filling out the neighborhood, the ethics form when we don't have a choice.
But there's 2 issues. One of them is the issue that you're going to fill out the form when you're submitting a recommendation, and the other aspect is if you're on the neighborhood council, you're going to fill out the form. So there's 2
We
issues.
understand that, but I'm telling you that when, in my conversations with neighborhood council members, they're not.
They don't want
taking
the
it.
form.
They're just saying it's an ethics form, it's an additional.
That's correct. They're probably
We
not
should-
tying the
should-
2 together.
Right.
They're not tying the 2 together.
Yeah.
But then something occurs, and ethics gets involved, and then city attorney gets involved, and then problems occur. We're trying to eliminate problems and conflicts. So it's to the benefit of everyone that we all play by the same rules, so we don't have that conflict.
In the meantime, as we continue this conflict, as we continue this debate, they don't have the power to introduce neighborhood council files, which
That's
should be
correct.
our primary focus. This came up as part of the package of reports
Right.
from Bonk, and
Right.
it was one of the things that we acted on. I believe it was your motion was it your motion to allow them to introduce neighborhood council files?
Yes.
Yes, so remember,
Yes.
that
That was-
is, that
right.
is the ball.
And it was also I hope you write that in the history, it was my motion to have them exempt from the Form 700.
So there's
I've
the
all along, my history has always been about freeing them, liberating them, allowing them to be the real voice in the city that they should be without all this bureaucratic
And in
red
this
tape.
case, there is no way to resolve that conflict because, and you voted to support the ethics report.
Oh, say that one more time.
Well, I did too.
I did too.
but
I voted for it
didn't
too.
want
I didn't want to either.
But we're. in
But
a
they got to be held accountable.
If
That's
we
the
wanted to get
conflicts.
the neighborhood
I
council
know.
files, they had to do the ethics because that we clear a
Our
majority.
colleague,
supported
Mr.
that.
Smith, threw us for a.
I think
loop
that
there.
there's legitimacy to it. The question I have also is on the bonk. I understand they don't have a quorum many times. They don't have commission meetings. Has this gone before the commission?
No, not yet.
Well-
Have they had meetings?
Yes, they've had
Do
meetings.
they have a quorum now?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait. I don't think that's accurate. Bonk did consider in their review the issue of neighborhood council files and the issue of ethics forms. Did they consider them together? No.
No, they haven't.
But Mr. Sonnenschein has testified that he believes that, that he doesn't see a problem with that.
Right.
In the
The original NCRC recommendation just had the council files and did not address the ethics disclosure at all.
Right.
Correct.
Okay. So we
But
shall.
the ethics report, piece was reviewed by Bunk.
No, it hasn't
Not
been.
relative to the neighborhood council file, just purely whether or not to fill out an ethics form. And I believe they opposed it. Or they were quiet, silent on it.
I don't think they've taken a position on it, no.
I don't think so either, because I think the first time that issue arose was when council considered the item on the council floor.
No, I'm not talking about the one tied to the neighborhood council file. I'm talking in general. The ethics, the issue of whether or not to have an ethics requirement for neighborhood council members.
I don't think it ever came before the bond.
No, I don't
It
think
never went
so.
before.
No.
No.
Wasn't an issue before them.
I wish it did.
So can we
purely
get
city
Well,
council
a
issue.
date
They
certain
could-
on this?
We could put it on the agenda. Now, Councilman, my suggestion is to provide a venue for the neighborhood councils to come and ask questions and to hear their,
Which one do you
you know,
think?
hear their concerns, but it's not to slow down the process at all. Because a lot of neighborhood councils do
I
have
believe it
questions.
will have the effect of slowing it down, yes, absolutely.
Oh, to some extent.
And democracy can't wait sometimes.
Well, I'm suggesting that the 30 days, within 30 days, it does go to council.
53, is that it?
And I'm offering simply that the bank could hold a public hearing on the issue, but would not affect the timing of presentation to the full council at all.
Isn't there a Congress coming up?
What is
October
different
11th.
than us holding a hearing?
Oh, and this is 52.
Well, the bank has the ability to just hold special meetings, but I guess
We don't
this
have that.
Education Neighborhoods has that authority as well.
Yeah, and we're continuing it so that we give them the opportunity. By the way, you might want to mention that they can also submit written requests.
Yes, written requests, but the bank usually holds our meetings in the evenings, so it's sometimes easier for neighborhood council
That's
people
why
to
I'm
attend.
saying, if you remind people to submit written requests, we can get the input.
What if we
from
take
neighborhood councils.
this committee and have a community meeting with this committee? Instead of having it here at City Hall at 9
Great
a.m.,
idea.
do it like in the valley,
Yeah.
6 o'clock in the evening.
Is Jeff
Or
Hahn-
San Pedro
Have I ever missed a valley?
at
meeting?
midnight.
Take that long to get there with traffic. But what if we did that? If we had a
Better idea.
central location?
I love that idea.
Why don't we-
I always love going out to the people.
Since it's a timely subject,
Yeah.
Rich, Council
not wild about 6
President,
o'clock at
members,
night.
sir.
Okay, I want to stress to you that
And get it done.
Saturday morning.
what I anticipate
In the valley.
is a bunch of folks advocating for no ethics provision whatsoever.
And then ethics will say, that's illegal.
No, ethics will not say that. Ethics will say that's up to the council.
And the council's already made their decision.
No,
So,
the council did not already make its decision. All they did was send it to committee for, to send back to them a report on how we could get their wishes done. We
Right.
haven't sent that report back. That's what we're trying to do. But
Right.
if we go to the community, they're not.
They're not,
gonna-
yeah,
They're not
you're
going to
right.
understand those.
They're
uh,
exempt, but they're not exempt from the laws of conflict of interest. That's what everybody needs to know.
Right.
They're not exempt from that.
And
But
this could
whether
be a
or
good
not-
opportunity to
and then
remind
Whether or
people
not
of
we
that.
force them to fill out a form is another thing, but they are still under the same laws that we're under.
And this may also be an opportunity for more council people to understand the history and the political situation that we're trying to address right now, because
I think
that's the educational opportunity
Oh, you're
that we
talking
may
about
have.
neighborhood
Yes, because they don't understand the context within which we're trying to wrestle with this issue.
where do we have the most active neighborhood councils? What part of the city?
In terms of advocacy
Pedro.
around citywide policy issues, it would be the Valley and San Pedro, most likely, but
So I would recommend.
Let's say Harbor, because Wilmington's very active.
So I'd recommend that if we want to do one, we do it, we flip a coin, Valley or Harbor. If we do two, we do one at each location. And that way, they could come to the meeting, they could hear our concerns, their concerns, and get it done.
How about if I take it under consideration and let you guys know?
Good idea.
But it's just an idea if we want to get it
Where's
done.
right in the middle? Where's up right in the middle between the valley and...
If we want to get it done quickly, that'll be a way to get it done in a rather
I
timely
mean,
fashion.
right in the middle of it. I mean, you could argue the city hall is in the middle of the city, but,
Yeah, but not at 9 o'clock in the
Oh,
morning.
Good point.
I mean, it sounds like, I don't think we need to do that at this point. I mean, if you guys really want to have an evening meeting,
You could buy dinner and, it'd be nice.
if you show up, I'll buy dinner.
I'll show up. You buy, I'll show up.
I'm not having
I never turn down a free meal. Under
Yeah.
$25. I like the buffet, though. It's easier.
Okay, we have just a few minutes to get back to council, but
You want to ponder?
you know what? Yeah, I'm going to wait until we get some public comment and see what some of. Do we have any public comment on this item? Is that item? This is item number 3, right? Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. Jacoberger. Jacoberger. Okay.
Take up 2.
Good morning, Jeff Jacoberger. I'm on the Mid-City West Community Council, was on the NCRC. The only comment, I don't necessarily object to filling out an ethics form. My concern is I think this sort of misses the boat, because my sense from being on my neighborhood council and what I've observed from other neighborhood councils is the conflict of interest doesn't really arise. Nobody's going to give me a gift, but the gifts are going to go to, like, the churches and the schools and the, clubs and the institutions in the community that many of the people who are on the neighborhood council are members of it. And this seems kind of black and white, and I don't know that this form even really gets to the kinds of gifts that are likely to create the sorts of things that from public perception might be creating a problem. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but I just know that some developer isn't going to give me, hundreds of dollars. They're going to contribute to the PTA or
That's an excellent point.
the sort of thing that's trying, like they do all the time to try to, from homeowners associations or other organizations to try to build community support.
That's an excellent point.
The only thing I would say is the possibility of both is very real. So while you may not perceive that a developer might give gifts to a specific.
Yeah, and I mean, and that happens, that should be disclosed, but just my own experience is kind of that it's when they're giving money to
this form is not
community theater, and
Right.
somebody who's involved with the community theater is on the neighborhood council, and I don't know,
That's a good point.
and that just seems like
This
that's
will
more
not
likely
ever
to be
pick
the
that up. This will not ever pick
the
that
kind of thing that
up. That's an
is
excellent.
actually creating the appearance of impropriety, and I don't know that this form captures that.
Thank you. Leonard Schaefer?
It's an excellent point.
Good morning, members of the committee.
Good morning.
Chairman Alarcon, the last email I got on this subject from Rafe Sonnenschein was, how did this issue morph into something that it is today? He is
My sentiments exactly.
He's enjoying Paris.
Oh, thanks for reminding us.
Nice.
Yeah, 2 things. One, from my sense from neighborhood councils is that everybody knows that some type of form tied to the council files is a fait accompli. I mean, it's there. It's just going to happen. And everybody who engages in a council file issue has the opportunity to determine whether they wish to participate in light of the form. So Form 52 is one thing. Form 53, the feedback I have gotten, is that people became members of boards and they did not anticipate this. This was not a conscious decision that they could have made when becoming. And now with the elections, people are going to be in place until 2010 in most boards.
Right.
And they have not had the opportunity. So a lot of the email feedback I have gotten, having sent out a mass email on this, is that they will vote by using their feet. They will walk away from the boards. There's 2 neighborhood councils, one in the Valley and Venice, that have already passed resolutions about this. I would say that what they have objected to is the moving from you do it for a CF to you do it for everything. I spoke to a friend of mine who is either second or third time, I don't remember, neighborhood council in Simi Valley, the city of Simi Valley, where they divide the city up into 4 quadrants and each has a neighborhood council. And he says they're schooled in their ethics responsibilities, and then they all fill out an affidavit acknowledging their responsibilities and what they should do as far as recusing themselves. That may well be a better solution, especially with what Jeff said, I know that there's an issue coming up in my neighborhood
Yeah.
with the expansion of a particular temple of which I'm a congregant, and I queried the city attorney, and the response was, no, it's not a direct economic benefit, so you don't have to recuse yourself, but at the very least, you should let everyone know that you're a congregant and what your interest is, so they will be able to evaluate your comment and your votes. So perhaps there's even a better way that would satisfy the council than an actual form. Thank you.
I have a card. Dr. Weissman, I'm sorry.
These forms are.
I'll take the picture if you want, Doctor. We get a direct view this way.
I want you in it.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't want you to neglect it in this one. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I'd like to give you a little bit of an update on how deep this sentiment against conflict of interest written statements is. Not only did my council, neighborhood council, West Hills, very, very quickly vote flatly against this. Many of the members of that council said no, they won't participate anymore if this is a requirement. Not only did that happen, but on Saturday, 2 meetings were held. Leonard Schaefer, of course, as the president of the LANC Coalition, chaired the meeting when that particular group voted unanimously to have a 90-day delay.
Oh.
Not that we want to delay the opportunity to submit neighborhood councils, Mr. Alicant, but that we do want to be able to vet this issue more thoroughly. Now, we do have a responsibility. Oh, by the way, there was a second meeting of the Save LA group, the thing that Ron Kay is putting together. They said the same thing and unanimously said, we want 90 days more. All right, so you've got a rather widespread, and and in those 2 meetings, 25 to 30 neighborhood councils were represented by the members there. The real issue is the way in which this is applied. Underlying all of this is the fact that we are under the obligations to obey the state law.
Right.
That has to be put right in front of us all the time we do this.
Right.
You'll see in the document I've written for you, and I see it's in front of each of you, the last few lines. I always would try to recommend for the most acceptable. Put a brief form forward, whether it's 52 or just a statement, no, I don't have any economic interest in this issue, to the council members as a request, not a requirement. It may take some more language through the city council to do it this way. But if a person doesn't choose to fill that out, they have their reasons. Either they are recusable, or for other reasons they just don't want to participate in this, and so they are automatically required to stay out of this issue in their council. They may continue to operate as a public citizen and advocate or oppose any of the measures that come forward, but they step down from their town council position when this comes before their council. That abides by the law. It gives everybody the option to satisfy their own conscience, and it still makes us aware and makes us show that we really do appreciate that we are under this same law. But as volunteers in a rather unique set of circumstances in the state of California, I do think we're entitled to some special consideration. This is what many of us have come before you, and I certainly are advocating that you take to the full council something that recognizes our position as volunteers, recognizes the efforts that we're making to try to benefit the city without trying to act like policemen. There's too many of us. It's too political. You've already heard from the Ethics Commission. I don't think it's an ethical or moral thing to do. I think you're applying a limitation which is, first of all, unnecessary, second of all, unworkable, and third of all, very strongly opposed in the community. Thank you for hearing me, and I hope you'll accept those as recommendations.
Thank you. With that,
We still have item 2.
Hey, get me, you're getting yourselves because you're not going to be able to do neighborhood council files. Not me.
Not me. Yeah, I agree. I agree. This is really unfortunate. This is really unfortunate. When I'm looking at these forms, it's in my opinion, it's way too much information to ask a volunteer to fill out. I mean, it's talking about. I know.
I have a mind to send this back to council with the recommendation that we not tie the ethics.
I'm
to the neighborhood
second.
council file whatsoever.
Second.
Then that's
Second. It's ridiculous.
Next
It was
item.
never the intent.
What? The recommendation is that we send the matter back to the council, that we do not tie the ethics provision to the neighborhood council file, that
Woohoo.
that the council files be unhindered and
Second.
unfettered by an ethics
Second, third,
requirement,
fourth,
and that
fifth.
that we retain the issue of ethics in this committee for further consideration.
That was bold, brilliant, and courageous.
Bold, I wouldn't go that far. It gets it off the agenda, but.
And then what happens when the council sends it back to us with
Item number 2.
previous recommendation?
We'll worry about that when it comes. Let them stand up to the council, to the neighborhood council. If the neighborhood councils really care, they'll go to the council and they'll demand it.
But they weren't last time.
They backed off on the issue last time.
Yeah, they sure did.
Okay. Item number 2 or 4?
That-
4?
Do you concur, Mr.
That's
Dunn?
fine.
Okay, then that's a unanimous position. Item number, we have a commissioner to consider.
Correct. For clarification, then, is item number 4, the procedures and guidelines for submitting neighborhood council files is approved and will be forwarded to council, whereas item number 3, the statement of economic interest will remain in committee, be continued in committee?
No,
Let's ask, hold on a second.
we didn't do number 4.
No,
only
we did
three.
number 3.
We didn't do 4.
4 is next.
Let's ask how our action on item number 3 impacts item number 4, but let's take care of the commissioner first, please. Reverend Louis Logan?
Good morning.
Reverend, you were a member of the commission for a while and then moved out of the city and had to give up your position, and you, I understand, have moved back to the city.
I'm still living in boxes as we speak.
So this is essentially
Out of boxes.
a reappointment.
Yes, sir, essentially.
It's not truly
That's
a
correct.
new appointment.
I was living in the Duns for about a year and a half, and the owner of the domicile decided to sell. We could settle on a price, and so we had to leave. And we thought we were moving just a couple of blocks away into Ladero. We found out by virtue of receiving mail that we had moved to unincorporated Los Angeles. So we had to relocate, and we've done so about a month or so ago. And like I said, we're still living out of boxes.
Okay, so what period of time did you serve on the council?
Basically, from it seems to me it was about 05, 06, up until
5 or
just
6
recently. Right.
months or years?
No, 05 to.
Oh, 05?
Yes, sir. Well, actually, I was appointed by the mayor after he.
Whenever he got elected.
Right.
Okay. It seems like a long
Yeah,
time.
it seemed like much longer than it was.
Okay, so could you give us a quick understanding of why you want to serve on Bonk?
Well, I understand the importance of neighborhood empowerment, community involvement. As a community organizer myself, I see the neighborhood council system as an important mechanism of inclusion of all of those who are stakeholders within a community matrix to effectuate change and the type of outcomes and circumstances that people want to live in within their respective communities. So as a stakeholder within the city of Los Angeles, by virtue of being a pastor and a community organizer, I kind of enjoy the connectivity to the community in terms of its vision, its direction, and its desire to empower itself to effectuate those changes. I also see being a part of the Bonk as being a partner with Dunn in the enhancement of neighborhood council and also, of course, partnership with neighborhood councils in ensuring that inclusion. It's, I think, and the fact that we travel from community to community to hold our various meetings, I think ensures a widespread sense of connectivity throughout the whole neighborhood council system.
There's one of the criticisms of Bonk is that they have failed to be able to produce a quorum.
Yeah.
Is that partly resulting from the situation that you found yourself in?
Well, I can only speak personally about my situation, but in terms of just that recent situation there, I think what we've had is a process of transitioning in terms of revamping, as are many of the neighborhood councils, in terms of what we are doing together. Many of those who have been a part of our commission have had some perspective in terms of what our roles have been, and we've had, by virtue of also some changes and transitions within Dunn, looked at various ways that we have to work together. So there have been some instances when it worked out, and some instances when we had to transition. And I think we're in a position now where I think much of the transition is past, and that we're reaching a point now with our new general manager in Dunn and new board members on Bonk to be more of a stabilized entity within the neighborhood council system. So I think whatever it was a period of transition.
Okay. Did you have any problem with your attendance while you were on the commission?
I had some, in terms of times in which we were trying to meet, because we did select different times to meet, the evenings and different days and different locations. I found and heard of, I had to go to places I had never heard of, and the travel was quite challenging, but in and of itself, it was good. You know, we were there, we participated, we were there until sometimes 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening, but we did what we had to do.
Okay.
So in terms of actually being there.
I'm fine with this, Commissioner.
I'm fine too, but I just want to ask
Yes, sir.
a big vision question.
Yes,
I mean,
sir. Yes, ma'am.
I love your resume. You bring a lot of great stuff to the table. You're a community organizer.
Yes, ma'am.
In the a community organizer with responsibilities.
Like a small town mayor.
Yeah. You know, I just want to say that most of our neighborhood councils have more people in them than the city that she was mayor of in Alaska. But anyway, I'm just saying. Okay, you hear our frustration. It just feels like, you know, neighborhood councils have not reached their full potential of being this really powerful voice. Seems like they're always got bureaucratic red tape, but there's stuff that restrains them. What do you think, just even listening to our discussion today about making them fill out stuff, and what's your big vision for neighborhood councils, and how do we, you know, unleash them to their full potential? And what are you hearing as some of the frustrations on why the participation doesn't seem to be, you know, kind of reaching that vision that I think Dennis and I had when we were on the Charter Commission in 1997?
Excuse me, I've got to go to council, but I want to vote to support you.
Okay.
in this
Thank you,
position.
sir. I appreciate that.
Maybe we should save this answer for the full city council, but
That's a good idea.
Talk-
I second that motion, and I second the
Oh,
motion.
all right.
to-
All right.
okay, but you know,
Yes,
I want you to be
I'll
prepared
consider
for-
it, and perhaps that the
Yeah.
full council will.
you know what I'm saying. Okay.
We have to get to council.
Okay.
Thank you very much for
Well-
your consideration.
One item, Karen.
Thank you.
Item number
So
4.
That item is approved. Item number 4,
The city
please
clerk.
stated, what does our action on item number 3 do to item number 4?
Very simply, in our report, you can adopt all the recommendations with the exception of 1B. That's the one that required the Form 52 or whatever. Everything else would stand, and then we also provided a simplified form for the neighborhood councils to provide. So you can do a couple different things. You can just adopt that with that eliminated, and with the simplified form, you can just give us the instruction to implement whatever it is you adopt.
Okay, so we will, what?
Adopt the report without the one.
My interest would be to adopt the report with the exception of 1B, and then
Second.
in terms of public hearing, Mr. Schaefer.
1B having been eliminated, no longer answer.
That was quite a
I
statement.
think you speak for the entire council of neighborhood.
Well, but let's see if it doesn't come back, Mr. Schaefer. Okay, then that would be the order.
We should have taken this up when Greg was done.
Okay, no other public comment cards? I do have one announcement, and that is to say that I am waiving the council file item 07-1330 relative to allowing neighborhood councils the ability to appeal land use decisions, and that matter will go directly to the Plum Committee.
I don't know what you just did.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned. It has to do with the